What I told my team was, for me, unreasonable hospitality is 2 sentences. It's be generous with surprises, be consistent with rules. That's what unreasonable hospitality is to me. Be generous with surprises, be consistent with rules. And what that does is it allows you to have a framework that your team can feel confident and comfortable in while still being able to offer surprises and feel like, oh, I am doing something really kind and really fun and very nice for this person.
Welcome to the Vacation Rental Show. This is your essential playbook to grow and scale your vacation rental business with advice and insights from the best in the biz. I'm your host, Linnell Gordon. Welcome to the Vacation Rental Show. I'm Linnell Gordon, your host, and today's episode, we are really excited to have Heather Fillmore, and she is an author, a seasoned professional in the vacation rental industry. She has a company based in Park City, Utah, that's called StayLuxe Properties. She has made a name for herself as an expert in staging, styling, photography, copywriting, because of her attention to detail and her commitment to providing exceptional service. It's really have elevated vacation rentals in the Park City area. So as the co-founder and the CEO of StayLuxe Properties, she ensures that guests have personalized experiences for their stay as well as for the property owners. She is passionate about creating inviting spaces and supporting her local community through charitable contributions. Welcome, Heather.
Hi, I'm excited to be here. It's been a long time coming, Linnell. I think a year.
Absolutely. We tried to do this interview like multiple times, but hey, people are busy. And Heather, you're a very busy woman. I have to say something that I just thought was exceptional. And everybody should maybe use one of the strategies that you have. I sent an email to you and I got an email back saying, I don't often check this email. It's my private email, so please send it to my professional email. And I sent it to your professional email. And I got an email back saying, hey, so glad you emailed me. I'm not great on email, but you're welcome to text me. I mean, I love the fact that people can get in touch with you. You are a reachable person. So I called you and a voicemail came on saying, please give me your name and I will pass it on to Heather, basically. And I thought, okay, you've got an assistant here. So it's no doubt that it's taken us so long to get here because you're a very busy person. Let me just say this. There are people who are intimidated by success, and there are people that are intimidated by successful women. First of all, I think the thing that you did with your email was really remarkable. I think it's called setting boundaries, and I think you've done a really good job on that. And for people who have ADHD, those are great tools to use. And not only that, but the iPhone just came out with something that, for personal focus, the same kind of thing. If you see me at this particular GPS location, don't give me a phone call. There's all kinds of things like that now on iPhone that you can set up boundaries for that. And I think that everybody needs that to work with. As we talk about the personality, and that's really what we're talking about here, of a property manager who is running an intentionally small vacation rental company. And that's a delicate balance because not everybody can do that. That's a choice you've made and one that you've been very successful at. Any of us who have owned a small business, you just do what you have to do. That's why those boundaries that you've done are so smart and remarkable. In business, when you have those types of horrific things that happen to you and no one can control those, you just have to create systems around yourself that help you to work. And I would love for you to talk more about the systems that you created around yourself to help you get through. Not only did you have that loss, but then you had no snow and your revenue was affected. So what systems have you built around yourself that other people can use and say, wow, I really relate to Heather. I've been there. I've done that. I've got the t-shirt. I know one person who did it and they completely got out of the business and they just run a B&B now and they're really happy. They just do that and that's what they're happy. What have you done that other people can emulate who find themselves in that position?
Well, so I think that it's funny that you said, been there, had the t-shirt river. So I don't know if you can see here. This is one of the systems. Grace. I give myself a lot of grace because there are days when I do have to just shut down, where I cannot be involved with talking to a guest. I can't have a conversation with an owner that day. And I have to be willing to give myself grace. Being Gen X, we come from a generation of high productivity people because if we were not productive, we did not have value. That was the equation for Gen X. If you're not productive, you don't have value. You're a lazy bum. That was literally a phrase that was used quite often. You're a lazy bum.
I've heard that too. 100%. I'm with you.
Yeah. And so I think what I would say when you're talking about systems and processes, I'm going to be real honest with you. I am only 5 years in with StayLuxe. I've in 7 years in on the industry because I started in the industry working for another vacation rental management company. But I don't have all the answers. I don't have all the systems. I don't have the processes. It was so interesting because I was listening to Rachel all day, which everybody knows and loves Rachel. So she operates in Park City as well. Absolutely admire her. I've literally never met her in person.
You should have lunch with her. She's amazeballs.
Yeah, I very much admire her, but I remember her talking recently and saying something like, I'm going to be honest with you, I just barely found out what EBITDA means. And I'm like, oh, it's hysterical to me. And this goes back to something that happened to me at a conference once too, listening to another person I absolutely admire with all my heart, which is Robin Cragen. So adore these people from afar, right? Which Robin I actually have spoken to before. But I remember him also talking in a conference and saying something about, I asked a question about finances. And I was like, well, how long did it take for you? Because he was, obviously he's on a panel at this point. So he's pontificating, right? Because that's what they've asked him to do, right? And he's like, yeah, we have this set up in our finances and, we've got this budget and blah, blah, blah. And so I raised my hand. I was, okay, but how long did it take for you to get there? How long did it take for you to actually know where every dollar was going in your business? And so he leaned in and he was just like, I think probably about 15 years. And so I thought it was beautiful when Rachel said that too. She's like, listen, I don't have all the answers. And when she gave her timeline that she got into the industry in 2008, again, grace, right? I gave myself grace because I'm like, listen, I got into the industry in 2018 and didn't start my business, StayLuxe, until 2020 in the middle of the pandemic. So the fact that I don't have all of my handbook perfectly written out and my systems and processes and SOPs all perfectly written out and stored in my Google Drive for my employees to look at and all that. Listen, my business is all of 3 employees. Everyone else is a 1099 contractor. My maintenance is done by 1099 contractors. My housekeeping is done by a 1099 contractor. The only actual W-2 employees are me and my daughter, who is my operations manager. And then I have this beautiful, cute little gal out of the Philippines that takes care of my guest experience. She's my guest experience ambassador. And she's also, quote unquote, 1099. She's paid through a staffing service, right? And so the systems and processes things, what I would say to other people who are still in their infancy, because I don't care what you say, 5 years in, some people might think, wow, you're a seasoned professional. And you even mentioned that in the beginning. I am nowhere close to being a seasoned professional is what I'm here to tell you. 5 years in of an intentionally small business is still hard work. Now, I will say that is one of the things that's been turned on its head after last year's experience and how much broke down in last year, that I've looked at this year as being an opportunity to start from scratch and say, you know what? We've never had these things in place before. I started our business July 1st of 2020 with 15 properties. I now have 12 active with one that's finishing renovations. So 13 properties, but one is not fully back on the books, so to speak. And so now is a time for rebuilding. And that's, I think, the message that maybe I would tell people is that it's okay to start over in the middle. I don't know what's going to happen to StayLuxe. You don't know what's going to happen to StayLuxe.
But you're a very hard worker too.
Well, I am a very hard worker. I'm actually a workaholic. I didn't realize that until I started this business. Apparently, I've been a workaholic my entire life. And my kids now, as we look back to their childhood, they're like, yeah, Mom, you used to get up at 3:00 in the morning, go grocery shopping at 3:00 in the morning, come back, write in your journal, read your scriptures, get started for the day. And then you'd work until 11 o'clock at night. And I'm like, oh, that's what it means to be a workaholic. Got it. Okay. Yes, I've been a workaholic my entire life. So yeah, that's really been it. And I think one other thing that I want to mention here is this idea of success. So you had mentioned that in what you were saying before, anybody who's built a successful business, whatever, that sort of thing. This goes back to the comparison trap and social media even. So when I graduated from high school, I was valedictorian of my high school class. I was voted because it was a shoo-in. I was voted most likely to succeed, right? Because of course you're the valedictorian. Of course you're going to be most likely to succeed. That's just a given. And I remember at like my 10th class reunion, 20th class reunion, thinking, I think that, after 10 years, after 20 years, your idea of success shifts. And I think in this industry, we have to be very careful to not equate success with revenue numbers, number of quote unquote doors, which I don't like that term, period, but number of properties under management, owner, partners, whatever that is, because that is not the definition of success. It's just not. I would submit that the definition of success in life and in vacation rentals is when you look at yourself in the mirror at the end of the day, can you say to yourself, you did your best? You were kind to others. That's what success looks like.
I think it's really interesting that you said that because Sophia Rosada, who is the VP at Inhabit right now, one of the VPs there, she said something that blew me. But still, I think about it. I probably think about it at least once a week. So this is a very strong woman. We are very strong women. You're a very strong woman. She's very successful. She's so humble and so kind. And she said to me this, what's the most important part about being a leader? She said, be a good person. And I thought, oh, mic drop. I just gained, the respect I had for her before was just enormous. And after that, I was like, done. When you can say that the most important part of your leadership ability, no matter how large organization is, to be a good person, to look yourself in the mirror, like you said, I think that people who have been through it, there are difficult times, no matter how amazing your life is. And I think that looking yourself in the mirror at the end of the day and saying, I was kind to my employees, I was honest with them, and if I have to fire them, I do. But I can look myself in the mirror and say, I have done the best that I could.
Yeah, it's literally the last sentence in my morning mantra, my morning affirmations is, today in a world where I can be anything, I will be kind. That's the last sentence of my morning affirmations that I say. And I don't always get there. Let's be honest, I'm human. But I think it's that idea of doing your best. That's really what it is doing the best with what you can.
The Vacation Rental Show has partnered with Rental Guardian to bring the vacation rentals market custom protection products built for the needs of the vacation rental industry. Enjoy complete protection for both your travelers and your owners via the industry's leading travel, damage, and liability protection products. Learn more about the travel tech industry's most advanced travel and damage protection platform and API at rentalguardian.com. Here is a message I would love, and it's the same message that you want to get out here, Heather. And basically what I'm going to call this podcast is the personality of a small owner or something like that, a small sole owner of a business, because we have to be so careful because we are the person that everybody looks to.
Oh yeah, we hold all the emotional weight of everybody, of the guests, the owners, the team. We hold all of the emotional weight, and it's an extremely heavy weight to hold. And like you said, that discernment, here's what I would say about discernment too. Discernment is the foundation of alignment. Discernment is what brings you into alignment. And we're all looking for alignment, whether that's in what guests we're bringing in, what owners we partner with, what we do on a daily basis for a living. We're all looking for alignment.
I felt like that was a really important lesson for me to learn that being productive in business, it doesn't always equate success. Like I think about when my kiddo was young, my youngest, when he was very young, he still remembers the fact that I took him to school, I pick him up, and he would come and sit and do his homework and eat cookies, and I would be back at the desk. And it's not because I felt like working was more important than being a mother. It's the fact like I was a single mom at the time, and I couldn't afford not to. I had no choice. I had to work, and I had to work hard. And I think even if I wasn't a single mom, like right now, I love working. We stopped working probably about 7:00. But the last 2 months when I was working over in Europe, I worked till like 2 a.m. every morning. We got up and we've been back to work at 8. Do I love that? I do. I do love that.
That's because it's aligned with who you are. And I do think that is a big lesson that I've learned that you and I have spoken briefly about is that one of the things that I've learned through last year as well is that part of the reason why I need to spend 2026 putting in systems, processes, handbooks, and all that sort of thing is so that I can step back a little bit further from what I'm doing, the operator of StayLuxe, so that I can spend more time in nonprofits, philanthropic work, because that's what gets me up in the morning. In vacation rentals, I think sometimes we get lost in this idea that we are in the service industry, right? By definition.
100%. We are hospitality providers.
Yes. But I've noticed that there has been a shift in that definition. So a good example is having a guest that doesn't get everything they want. They literally come into the property and they're like, I literally had a guest recently that came in that wanted us to rewire something in the room. Like actual electrical work because he wasn't happy about how the ceiling fan operated. And so in a conversation like that, And then when somebody like that comes and then puts it forward and says, that's really disappointed that you're not going to do that. I would think that being in the service industry as a hospitality provider, you would understand how important it is for you to take care of that on my behalf as your guest. I thought about that and digested it. And I thought, I am beginning to think that society as a whole maybe doesn't understand what the definition of the service industry is, because that's not what it is. It's not people coming in and demanding, you need to do this for me. And then as a service provider, we're saying, let me bend over backwards and change all the rules of my business to make sure that your preference is taken care of. That's not what it is. And so, yeah, I used it as kind of a training opportunity for my team as well. And this goes back to like the whole unreasonable hospitality that, yeah, we've all heard it bounce around the industry a lot in the last year, this unreasonable hospitality concept. And I started really thinking about that. And I think that sometimes that term is misused to mean that we bend over backwards for every demand that every guest puts out there. What I told my team was, for me, unreasonable hospitality is 2 sentences. It's be generous with surprises, be consistent with rules. That's what unreasonable hospitality is to me. Be generous with surprises, be consistent with rules. And what that does is it allows you to have a framework that your team can feel confident and comfortable in, while still being able to offer surprises and feel like, oh, I am doing something really kind and really fun and very nice for this person. But it creates that boundary, like you talked about in the very beginning. It allows for a boundary to be set of like, listen, when that guest starts demanding unreasonable expectations, you have the ability to just press repeat on the policy. Sorry, this is not what we're going to do. Sorry, I understand your preference. Sorry, we're not going to do that. You know what I mean? It just allows for that boundary. So I think that hospitality and service, that definition in today's society has shifted just slightly. We see that even when it comes to AI and all these other things that are coming in. And that brings me to another idea that I was thinking of sharing with you too, when you're talking about personality types. One of the things that's in the works right now for me is that I'm planning to put out a series on LinkedIn called Introvert Leadership. And for me, this is going to be a really important series because the industry has a tendency to be loud.
Now, that's true.
And the people who get the most attention are the loud people, so to speak. And I don't want anyone to take that as a negative connotation. I just mean loud in the sense that it's seen, it's out there, right? And one of the things that I think is getting lost in hospitality is that very often it's the quiet, simple acts that actually are building the foundation of the industry. It's not the loudness. It's not the look at me. It's not that. And I'm not saying, like, there are people in the industry, obviously, that post every day or whatever it is. And I don't want them to think that in some way I'm judging them, that because that's just not who I am as a person. If that's what works for you and your personality type, that's fantastic. But I think what I'm trying to bring forward is that there are a lot of quiet people who are exceptional leaders.
100%. And a lot of them, it's hard to get on the podcast. And I know they're exceptional leaders. And they're like, Linnell, that's not my thing. And I think to myself, I know it's not your thing, but you would really help people by explaining how you do things because you're very competent at what you do.
Yes. And I would love to speak to those people specifically because often people look at me when I am in public, because if I'm being really honest, if I'm going to a conference, the reason I'm going is because I'm speaking. I'm very comfortable speaking. But here's the thing. I was trained on how to do extrovert things. I was trained. I started public speaking when I was 5.
That's so funny because I started public speaking when I was in grade school, and that's what we did. We won awards for it.
Yep. I absolutely won award after award for public speaking. Like, seriously, it was something that I did that I very much enjoyed, but I am absolutely an introvert. Absolutely classic introvert. So what happens, and I'll explain some of this in my series too, what happens for introvert leaders is that we can show up. We can be there. We are exceptional leaders, right?
McDonald's ad comes to mind, CEO, just saying.
Yeah. But at the same time, people don't seem to understand that I'm also not the person, when I'm invited to a conference just to attend a conference, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not that interested. I'm not that interested in being in a auditorium with 500 other people. That is not connection for me. That's not learning for me. That's not how an introvert brain works. I want to be in this conversation. I want to be in a vacation rental roundtable with 6 other operators where we get on a call every month and we discuss what's happening in our business. And I'm like, wow, you 5 other people are brilliant minds. And I have taken so much away today that this hour was worth 6 hours at a conference. That's how introvert leaders work. And then the funny thing is people don't realize, people laugh when I tell them this, going to the grocery store, I can do it, but when I come home, I need a nap. Like that type of social interaction, literally just being in a grocery store is enough to drain my social battery. And so like, even with this conversation, I love this back and forth. I love having these conversations, sharing ideas, listening to other people's ideas, that sort of thing. But it drains my social battery because I'm an introvert. It doesn't mean that I'm incapable. It doesn't mean that I am intentionally removing myself from the conversation at large. It just means that I prefer smaller interactions.
That's how your brain works. And look, my husband is the same way. He is one of the best speakers. He's fascinating. We had a webinar on Friday that lasted 4 hours and almost everybody stayed. Like there were like 6 people that had to leave, but everybody stayed because he's that fascinating. But he's like you. His social battery is drained from going to dinner. Like if say we want to go to dinner somewhere, he is like that. But it's because that's just the way your brain works. And so as an operator, who's working solely as the leader and you don't have a partner, you're the one person that's hiring everybody, you're the one person that's in charge of everything, you own it, you're doing it. That is a very good position for people like you because you get to choose your interactions. And let's just say this, Heather, probably not for you either. They probably don't know they're draining your social battery by just going up to you and talking to you and not letting you go when you need to go. They don't know that because people like me who are extroverts, okay, very extroverted, I can walk into that conference and immediately it fills up my battery. My battery is filled, like I'm opposite of my husband. Like those meetings with interacting with people, it makes me so happy and joyous. But we have to know that there are different personality types for property managers. And being an introvert and a leader doesn't mean you're less or more. It means that's how your brain works.
Yeah. And I think that the industry at large right now doesn't have a lot of space for introverts, if that makes sense. When I say that, I mean, when you look at the structure of how we network in hospitality, 90% of it is based on let's all gather at a conference and then go out to a bar to network with each other. And I'm like, listen, like you will lose every introvert in our industry offering only that as an opportunity for learning.
I love the roundtables. The roundtables I find are very productive. And I'm an extrovert. I find that it's very productive because especially if you make it a roundtable and you go around the table, because there are people who are introverts who are not like you and me going to push out and say something.
Who haven't learned extrovert ways.
Right. You and I do that because I'm extrovert, you're an introvert, but you've learned that. But there are people at that table that I want to know information from, like some of the people that we've mentioned. I can just sit down and talk to them like for hours. I want to know, what did you do about this? What did you do about that? How are you handling that? How are you handling this? I mean, because I thrive off of gaining knowledge. I have to be learning something, doing something for my battery to be filled. So,
yeah. And I'm the same way, but in just a different way, right? I am a constant learner, but my happiest moments are sitting, you can see in the background here, this is me. I have been knitting, crocheting, and sewing.
I didn't know if that was a background. I saw all of that and I was like, oh, I love that. So you're a knitter.
This is one wall of my studio. So like I said, I've been knitting, crocheting, and sewing since I was 5. And so for me, this studio is where I find peace and quiet and solitude, but I am always learning in here. There are plenty of times where I start a sweater and I get all the way to the point of piecing all the pieces together and I'm like, I don't like it. And I pull the whole thing out. But that goes back to what I was saying before, right? Like this is one of those learning lessons for me is I thought to myself, why is it so easy for me to do that in my studio, in the quiet peacefulness of my studio where I'm learning by mistake? Why is that so easy for me here in this space? But when you're doing it with business, all of a sudden, every mistake feels so big, right?
Oh, it's because we're perfectionists. Come on. We expect so much of ourselves.
But it's so interesting to me. That is one of those changes that I want to do internally this year is I want to be able to look at my business the same way that I look at my studio and the things that I do for joy. I want to be able to look at my business that way and say, listen, if I make a mistake, it's not the end of the world. Just pull it out. Just pull it out and start over. It's okay. The next version is actually going to be better than the first version was. And so that goes back to what I was saying, that 2026, that I want people to take away, that it's okay to start over in the middle. It's okay to start over after you've already finished the sweater, my friend. Just rip it all out if you don't like it. And it's also okay to say, you know what? I really enjoyed knitting this sweater and I actually don't want to rip it out. I actually just want to finish it and donate it to my local Goodwill. Listen, that's the same thing as you building your business and saying, it just doesn't fit anymore. It doesn't fit anymore. I'm ready to sell. I'm ready to move on to something different. That's the same thing. Give the sweater away, sell the sweater, or rip it out and start over. Either way, it's okay. It's okay. We don't have to be so hard on ourselves that somehow this mistake is the ruination of us and everyone around us. Because we do that, don't we? We absolutely do that. So yeah, that's the thing I want people to take away from this is just do whatever feels right with that sweater. Just do whatever feels right. Discern what works for you. Get into alignment with what your values are, what you want your life to look like going forward. And listen, every day is a brand new day. You can start over every single day, basically. And my children are all adults. They're all in their 20s. And I have told them from the time that they were very small, the only comparison that you should ever make in your life is the comparison to the you of yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
If you can look in the mirror today and say, I did better today than I did yesterday, you're on the right track. And if you can't, then that just means there's an opportunity for growth tomorrow.
That's true. That's the whole concept of learning from mistakes. You don't get to better without making mistakes. And so we have to have that grace to give ourselves, to make the mistakes that we do, to grow our business and to grow our lives in the direction that we want them to. And that takes discernment, like you said, it takes wisdom, and it just takes the ability to say, okay, I'm moving on from whatever that was. I'm not going to give up and stop moving. I'm going to move on from what that was, and I'm going to go to something different.
Yeah. And give yourself grace along the way, because there will be hard days. I am here to tell you, there will be hard days. There will be days when the past comes back to haunt you and you just feel like, oh no, what's happening? I thought I was past that already. Give yourself grace. Those days will happen. Tomorrow will be different. And if it's not tomorrow that's different, next week will be different. It's okay. Just hold on. And sometimes we just have to be patient, like I said, and be still. Because for me, I am literally still in a situation with my business where I am not the sole owner of my business. I still have two partners, and one of which is the person that I removed who still owns 33% of my business, because that is just the way that the cards fell. And if I spend all my time thinking about how annoying that is and how much I wish I could change that, I would get absolutely nothing done. Instead, I choose to walk by faith. God knows things I don't know. I don't know what will happen in the next 5 years. I was talking to somebody in my business just yesterday and saying, right now is really difficult. Right now is difficult in my business. The fact that I'm down on property count, to be fair, the properties that I have do perform, half of those properties perform much better than the original 15. So there's that. But down property count, no snow for our peak season, I am a little bit stressed. And I told this person that I was talking to, I said, but you know what? This stress feels exponentially different than the stress that I felt this time last year, having that person in my business and having to literally tiptoe around them constantly in order to avoid the confrontation and the arguing and being accused of this or that or whatever. I will take this stress any day. And especially because this stress, I'm leaving it at the foot of the Savior. I'm going to do my best every day. I'm going to do my best to be kind.
We're never perfect.
Right. But at the end of the day, everything is okay. It's not perfect, but everything is okay. And that's what it means to be still, right? And I think that translates to guest too. Would you not say that, Linnell? It translates to guest too. And that's one of the things that I wrote in my chapter in Hospitable Host, actually. I think Jody asked me 3 times to contribute a chapter. And I told her no the first 2 times. And finally, on the 3rd time, I literally said to her, I said, I don't think that you understand what my chapter would be. She laughed. And I told her, I said, listen, it's not great. Like, I'm not going to write a chapter of rainbows and butterflies. I'm just not. That's not what my experience in the vacation rental industry has been. I have not experienced rainbows and butterflies. And she said, well, that's the reason why you need to write a chapter, because you will be like a voice of reason in the book. And it's actually one of the reasons why I don't share the book very often, because my chapter is very much that chapter of saying, listen, bad things happen. Bad things happen and you've got to pick yourself up. And so I guess in some ways my chapter is kind of a redemption story, so to speak. But at the same time, at the very end, I'm like, listen, of all things, never let people abuse you. And that means owners, that means guests, let them move on. Listen, here's the thing. This is one of the funniest things that I've ever heard a guest say. They have verbally berated you. They've gaslit you and told you that you don't know what you're doing in the hospitality industry. They've told you that if you were truly a service provider, you would do all these things for them, right? They've gone through this whole gamut of toxic behavior, right, with you. And then they wrap it up with, well, you should know that I am not going to stay here again, and I'm never going to recommend my place to my friends. I hope you understand, sir, that's not a threat. That's a promise.
Thought about that.
Thank you so much for telling me that you will never stay with us again and that you're not going to recommend us to your friends because they're probably just like you. So thank you. That's one of the funniest statements I've ever heard from guests that behave like this. It's like, well, it's a small world. I'm like, thank you so much for not ever recommending us because we don't want to host you or your friends. Thank you.
I love the fact that people in this industry, we all have very different personalities. I love the fact that we have one thing in common. And that is that we do love helping people find and enjoy a wonderful, restful time with their family or with their friends. That part of hospitality lives in us. It obviously lives in you, and the need or the desire to please and make people happy. Because that one thing is in all of us who are hosts, who host people, who do the property management, who are guest facing. Everybody there wants to please people. And it's a good thing to do. But you don't have to be the one that does that. Someone else can do that.
Well, like you said, so much of my heart of hospitality lives in the space itself. And it's one of the reasons why our tagline is that we have vacation homes carefully curated for comfort and connection. Because they are. I go in and I look at a space and I think to myself, how can I make this space more comfortable? How can I make this space more appealing? How can I make it feel when somebody walks into this room, it feels like a giant, I can now relax. That's what I'm looking for. So while I'm not guest facing, and I'm not even the person to be guest facing, let's be honest, I'm not. Because as an introvert, I'm not the person to be guest facing. Whereas my cute little gal May, she absolutely is. But am I the right person to be behind the scenes and looking at spaces when I walk into them and having conversations with the owners and saying, listen, all the art on your walls are too high. Every person that comes in this space is automatically going to feel something is off. And I'm here to tell you it's because your art's hung too high. If you lower it, people are going to walk into the space and be like, this is comfortable. They're never going to know why. Nobody's ever going to know why they're comfortable. They're not going to be able to pinpoint it and put their finger on what about that space makes them feel comfortable. But I know what goes into making a space feel that moment of, I can now relax. And it doesn't matter if the guest ever knows that it's because I moved the art down on the wall. I don't care whether they know. I care that it was done before they got there.
I love that.
So that when they get there, they can feel that moment of relax into that space and say, yeah, this is comfortable for me. This is where I can make memories with my family and friends.
I just had a walkthrough with a housekeeping director for the company that manages my vacation rental house. And I said to them, this is exactly what I said. I said, there are 2 chairs. I have a very large table. I said, and there are 2 chairs that could sit on the end here. I said, but when people walk in my front door, I want them to see the ocean. That's all I want them to see is, wow, look at that ocean. Because that's why they're here, because we're at the beach. They're here because they want to see those blue waters, that blue sky, and my whole glass wall. And so if you pull those 2 chairs out, because I saw some pictures taken, and I was like, they didn't do the chairs. Is it that huge a deal? It's to me.
And it is to the guest. That goes into even the photography piece. I've had several people in the industry tell me, oh, you should just be doing vacation rental photography. And I'm like, well, I guess I could be doing that. And I am trained in photography. But for me, the photography that I do of my properties, the reason that I don't hire out is that I have yet to find a real estate photographer that truly understands vacation rental photography. They are 2 different things.
No, yeah. 100%. 100%.
And when I do the photography, I have the ability to take a photograph and then realize, oh no, the tuck on that bed was not perfect. And I want it to be perfect.
How many times do you see that in properties? all over.
Don't even get me started. Let me tell you something. There are a lot of people in this world who do not know what a hospital tuck is. That is what I'm here to tell you.
We're brats. We both know how to make a bed. Mine was from the Army. Yours is the Air Force.
I am literally an expert at making beds.
I was making my mom's bed up last week. This is so funny because you learn these things when you're young and depending on your background. And I notice it in every picture. And I may not say anything and because I don't know that everybody notices. But anyway, I was making up mom's bed and I was like doing the hospital corners. I mean, we called them, they were military corners. That's how we learned to make a bed. And so I said to Mom, do you want this tucked out or in on this bottom layer? Because I'm like, I want to tuck it in.
Yes.
And she's like, you can leave it out. And my husband's like, leave it out.
But those are the kinds of things that when you're able to take care of your own photography, those are the kinds of things. That's why I take care of my own photography, because if I see that as I'm taking photos, I have the ability, a real estate photographer is going to be like, they're just walking through the house and they're taking photos and they're done, right? And then you get your photos back that you just spent, $1,000 for? And you're like, great, the bed wasn't tucked in correctly. Now what do I do?
The pillows are not even on the bed. They're not evenly spaced. And it takes a special eye. I love photography too. I take landscape photography because that's my favorite. I want to ask if there's anything special you want to say before I go.
Like I said, I kind of came into this with just a couple of points that I wanted to bring out just from my experience, right? And just to help other people feel like it's okay to be a human. And maybe that is the message I'm getting out there is like, it's just okay to be human. You know, in this world of technology taking over and all these things, it's okay to be human. The breakdown that they're seeing in systems now because everybody had moved to AI. And now you have all these people who want to talk to a person and they can't because the people were removed and technology was put in their place. People want to be with other people. That's the funny thing about an introvert. People think that introverts don't want to be around people. It's not that I don't want to be around people. I need people. I need people. I just need them in smaller doses and in a different way than an extrovert does. But at the end of the day, we are all human. It's okay to be human. Use your discernment, align with the people that align with you, and just do your best to enjoy life. Life is not easy. And here's the thing. It was never meant to be. Life was never meant to be easy. When I say life was never meant to be easy, it goes back to what you said, Linnell. Mistakes are what help us be the best version of ourselves. So life was never intended to be easy. Take those hard moments, change them into something better. Don't give up. Change them into something better. And let me tell you something, giving up, if somebody listens to that and says, well, but you just said that I could sell my business and that would be okay. That's not giving up. That's making a strategic decision because that's what aligns with you. That's not giving up.
That's moving in another direction.
Yes.
100%. And you can make any choice you want. And that's something I can't say it strong enough to say, if you're a leader in your business, even if you're not a leader, if you're working in property management and you're working for someone else, you have a choice with your life. You are not stuck. Things may be difficult financially if you make certain decisions. You will get through that. You can walk through that.
And is a natural consequence of decisions.
100%.
The natural consequence, but just because the accountability part of a specific decision is not what you liked, that's an indicator is what it is. Consequences are indicators. I made this decision. The consequence, I don't like that consequence. Oh, great. So that is just an indicator that you need to do something different.
That's true.
That's all it is.
Don't be afraid of making a decision. If you make a bad decision, then make a different decision. It's okay to make bad decisions. We all make very bad decisions in our lives.
Give yourself grace and give everyone else grace too.
True.
Within boundaries, right? But give other people grace who are making honest mistakes, right? Not intentional mistakes, but honest mistakes. Give them grace, give yourself grace, and just be human.
We all walk through that. But at the end of the day, you should be able to look yourself in the mirror and say, I may be unhappy because of bad circumstances that happen, but I'm not living in misery. So know that you have choices.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Heather, for being with me. I've really enjoyed our conversation. It's been great.
It was fun. It was super fun.
It was fun. There's a lot of wisdom that'll come out of it. This episode of the Vacation Rental Show is brought to you by Rental Guardian. To find out more about how Rental Guardian can help grow your vacation rental business, visit rentalguardian.com. Make sure to search for The Vacation Rental Show in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube, or anywhere else podcasts are found. And hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. On behalf of the team at Inhabit, thanks for listening.